Next up is my colleague Vincent Guihan on the topic of WAN security from green and historic Ottawa, the capital city of Canada. Hi Vincent, welcome. We're talking security, so let's get straight into the point. The internet is now part and parcel of all our lives, right? We can't really escape it anymore. Why is WAN security so important right now?
Fantastic question, Isaac, and I'm super excited to dig into it. There are three main reasons that WAN security is more urgent than it ever has been, and those boil down to more apps, more sites, and more attacks. So, as you probably know, more and more of us are using web applications to do our day-to-day work. Not that long ago, we used applications that ran out of the data center. Now most of us are using cloud apps, whether that's Salesforce or Office 365, ERP, or other solutions in order to do our day-to-day work. And that poses a risk. Now, in addition to that, of course, enterprises are becoming infinitely distributed. And what that means in practice is that they're opening more branch offices. And that might mean more schools, or it could mean more clinics, or more warehouses, or more stores, or kiosks at the mall. The distribution of sites increases the attack surface. And of course, in the old days, when you would use an application, it would run in the data center. The data would never leave the network. If it did leave the network, there was usually security in place through the campus. That's not necessarily true at the branch. It's not true at the coffee shop if you're working from there. It's not true from the hotel or the airport or any of the other places that employees tend to work. So that combination of cloud apps, greater mobility, more sites, all that creates more room for attackers who are becoming more aggressive, and as technology levels rise, of course, attackers take advantage of that. So, for example, they're even using low-code or no-code options like bot as a service in order to attack enterprises these days.
You mentioned attackers. How do they use the internet and web as an entry point for an enterprise's WAN?
A number of ways that the WAN factors into a successful attack. One example might be when an employee uses a website or a web app that takes their data and uses it in a way that they weren't expecting. You know, think here shadow IT. Or they might download a piece of malware inadvertently. More sophisticated attacks might be distributed denial of service or traffic snooping of data that's going out over the internet but isn't encrypted when it does so. And of course, just because an attack doesn't come in from the WAN doesn't mean that it doesn't leverage the WAN in various different ways. So an attack might come in via USB drive, but then it might leverage the WAN in order to push data out through the network to exfiltrate it, or it might use the WAN to spread. Advanced persistent threats, for example, do this quite a lot.
What does the right WAN security solution look like?
So a lot of organizations are considering SD-WAN, and I think that's awesome because I think SD-WAN is fantastic technology. But I do think that organizations really should be looking for a secure SD-WAN like ExtremeCloud SD-WAN. So what that might involve, of course, is an SD-WAN that encrypts traffic over the internet. Virtually all SD-WANs do that today. It's handy to have a toggle that can allow or disallow direct internet access for branches. That's another important factor to consider when you're looking at secure SD-WANs. A third and less common approach is to bundle in a firewall with the SD-WAN. That's really a great value because, of course, you just have two important parts of the WAN together in one device, and then, of course, a firewall protects the organization not just from snooping traffic, but external threats that are trying to get into the network via the WAN. And then last but not least, the right choice for a lot of organizations today, I think, is an SD-WAN that also works with cloud-based security services. And what I mean by that, of course, would be cloud-delivered firewalls as a service, or secure web gateway, or even ZTNA, because of course you want that security to follow users, not just sites. And so that's an important consideration. Those cloud-based services are also great for organizations that want to have full control and choice over their investment into security and don't necessarily want to pitch their security investment when they invest in SD-WAN or vice versa. Or for organizations that simply don't want to invest in a firewall at every branch or every location.
And I'm assuming our SD-WAN solution does exactly that, right?
Yes, exactly.
I spoke to Dinesh earlier and he was telling me about the magic of Fabric. How does Fabric to the Edge relate to SD-WAN?
So as you heard earlier, Fabric can help keep threats out of the network. It also helps to contain threats that do get into the network.
That's brilliant. That's why we have people like you coming on to make things so easy to understand. Thank you so much, Vincent. Really appreciate your time.